We're moving through some more circuit judges. As you know, we'll confirm route for the Kavanaugh vacancy on the D.C. Circuit tomorrow. A word about our Democratic friends, both in the House and out on the campaign trail. It's interesting to watch Democratic candidates for president having a difficult time answering the question, are you a capitalist or not? My prediction, just for all of you, is that over a period of time, most Democratic candidates for president and most Democratic senators and congressmen will say they're capitalists. But I think the important thing to look at is not what they say, but what they're doing. And if you look at H.R. 1, which passed the House last week, a massive takeover of the American election system, including taxpayer funding of elections, partisan takeover of the Federal Election Commission, making it possible for ballot harvesting, which just rendered a congressional race in North Carolina moot. They're having a do-over, but which is legal in California. That's one example. Another example is the Green New Deal, which we've been talking about, and we'll talk about some more. And of course, another proposal on the way is Medicare for all, the result of which would be Medicare for none. So watch what they do, not what they ultimately say in answer to the questions, are you a capitalist?
The AFL-CIO, representing 12.5 million workers, 55 different unions, has slammed the Green New Deal. In a letter, they say that the Green New Deal makes promises that are not achievable or realistic. They went on to say, we will not accept proposals that could cause immediate harm to millions of our members and their families. Well, I hardly ever agree with the AFL-CIO, but I do on this letter and on their assessment of the Green New Deal. We have a strong and healthy and growing economy, and the Green New Deal would take it over the cliff in terms of massive spending, massive loss of jobs, and a massive increase in taxes. Even if it were to pass, it will not achieve what they want to achieve. Of all the global emissions, only 13% of them come from the United States. 33% of global emissions come from China and India combined. Republicans have offered solutions, and our solutions relate to innovation. Innovation with new advanced age nuclear power. Innovations with capturing carbon and using it productively. Our goal is to make energy as clean as we can, as fast as we can, and doing it in ways that don't raise costs or hurt America's economy.
So I've already had some things to say about how the Green New Deal will not be good for my state of Indiana. Today I'd like to focus specifically about how the Green New Deal will not be good for Indiana's farmers. Roughly 107,000 Hoosiers depend on our farm economy for their employment, for their household income, bring in roughly $30 billion to the state of Indiana. And the co-sponsors and supporters of this initiative, the Green New Deal, have put forward ideas that would require the fundamental rethinking and reworking of long-standing and broadly adopted agricultural practices. So imagine if farmers throughout the state of Indiana had to replace their combines, their farm machinery, with electrical vehicles and technologies. Imagine if they had to tear down their farm buildings and other structures and rebuild them to the Green New Deal standards that are being put forward. This is not good for Indiana generally, certainly not good for Indiana farmers. The Green New Deal is unaffordable, it's unattainable, it is unreasonable, and I will continue to fight on behalf of all Hoosiers to ensure that it never becomes the law of the land. Thank you.
Yeah.
Should we interpret the vote on the national emergency, if it passes, as a rebuke of the president? Do you think that some of your Republican senators are trying to have it both ways, voting against the national emergency, but being for the wall?
Well, on the issue of the wall, I think everybody in my conference is in favor of the president's position on the wall and on border security. It is no secret that the use of the national emergency law has generated a good deal of discussion, and we'll continue having those discussions, but it'll all come to a head on Thursday. The clock runs, and the vote will occur on Thursday.
Nancy Pelosi said that impeachment of President Trump is just not worth it. Do you agree?
I agree.
That's nice. You agree on something. That's great. Another issue where you might agree is potentially is paid family leave. Senators Lee and Ernst issued a new proposal today. There are now several Republican and Democratic proposals. What do you think of the Lee-Ernst approach, and how committed are you to holding a vote on this issue this year?
Well, it's a little early to talk about. I know Ivanka Trump has been pushing that for the last couple of years. There's been a lot of discussion about it, and we're going to take a look at it and see how many of my members want to go forward.
Do you like that approach?
On the National Emergencies Act, do you support the solution that Senator Lee is working on that would amend the National Emergencies Act itself?
Yeah, we're looking at some ways to revisit the law. There's a lot of discomfort with the law. Not that the president doesn't have the authority to do what he is doing. I think most of my members now believe this is not a constitutional issue in that sense, but rather is this grant of authority to any president, not just this one, any president, was it too broad back in the 70s when it was passed? So yeah, we're discussing altering that, but that would be prospectively. It wouldn't apply to the current situation.
Leader McConnell.
I may well, yeah.
Leader McConnell, what message are you trying to send to the president by inviting the NATO Secretary General to speak before a joint meeting of Congress?
Well, I'm not trying to send any message to the president, but the Speaker and I both think that NATO is the most important military alliance in the history of the world. Needs to be continued. We need to continue to demonstrate support for it and to reassure our European allies, and that's why we've issued a joint invitation for this particular NATO leader to come address a joint session of Congress.
They will not have died in vain. Did I tell you that a long time ago? 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Right? When we first met on the
4 years
campaign.
ago. Yes.
When they said, oh, Trump's not going to win. You said Trump was going to win, and I said, and they will not have died in vain. Right?
You told us each other.
And that's true. I say it today with even more meaning. It was a big step.
That was a moving moment for the President of the United States, choosing a very public venue and means by which to get the nation's attention and those who might even be thinking about challenging him again to override his veto on this emergency measure that will protect him at getting more funding for a wall. Angel mom Sabina Durden, that was the woman he was talking to, was at that veto signing ceremony. Her son Dominic Durden, 30 years young, was killed by an illegal immigrant with a truck while he was riding his motorcycle, and she was kind enough to stop by with us today. Sabina, very good to have you.
Good morning, Neil. It's an honor to be back with you.
I cannot fathom what you've been through since that tragic day, but the president is saying it's an emergency at the border because of what you went through, and that's why you were there, right?
Absolutely, and I brought the pen. I brought that famous pen that he signed the veto with. It's invigorating. It's like a shot of vitamin B to be back with the president. Know he's fighting for us, for the angel moms and dads, and for all Americans, so they won't know what this feels like, because for almost 7 years, it's 24/7, the pain never stops, and this fight gave me new life, and fighting for others not to know what this is about. And I'm so proud of our president.
Now, you know, Sabina, there are a number of people who said they feel for your loss, but that this wasn't the means by which the president should have forced this issue. For example, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer criticized the president, saying it's no surprise that the president holds the rule of law and our constitutional and minimal regard. He went on to say there is no emergency at the border. What did you think?
Oh, it absolutely is, because if you catch thousands at the border, and now they're just walking over, throwing up their hands, claiming amnesty. If you have thousands of people constantly flooding our country, and we know they're not just coming here for a better life, they're draining our system, things that belong to American citizens, or like legal immigrants like myself. I had to stand in line. I had to pay. I had to go through the proper procedures to be here, to earn my citizenship. I didn't skip lines. My son didn't either. And it's just not fair. And for Schumer and those 12 traitors, that's what I call them, that went against our president, we remember you. Marco Rubio, I remember really way back when the presidential campaign was going on. He talked about the new Americans. I know what that was for. That was for illegal aliens, not Americans. So I kind of know their language now, and it's shameful that any of our elected officials, and I don't care what side they're on, are not fighting for Americans. It is an emergency. It's a catastrophe. It's horrible what's happening to Americans, and sadly, the mainstream media doesn't want us to speak about it. So I'm very grateful for you to give Dominic and myself a voice.
Now, having said that, you're talking about the mainstream media. Apparently, you made an effort to talk to CNN's Jim Acosta and interview yourself or a representative of the Angel Mom movement. What did he say?
Well, I called him out right after I got up, after the president left the podium in the Rose Garden, and I called him out on, first of all, calling them undocumented immigrants. They are illegal aliens by law. That's defined. It's not racist. And I called him out on always quoting that illegals commit less crimes than Americans. And I told him that we should have zero crime by illegal aliens. They shouldn't even be here. And my son's death was one too many. And he put on this Oscar-worthy performance, putting his hand on his heart and telling me how sorry he was for our loss and how CNN felt. And I called him out on not having us on. In 7 years, I've been on there twice. Some have never been on. And I told him I wasn't going to be his prop when he offered to stand behind him when he goes live and he will point to us. How disrespectful and just arrogant. And then when he called out that the president calls him fake news, I said, well, I have to agree with the president. He is. And he keeps proving that. So it was a beautiful moment that I still have to laugh about. And I gave him my business card, and glad I didn't hold my breath because he hasn't called yet or contacted me.
All right, we'll watch closely, Sabina. Thank you very, very much. Sabina Durden, Angel Mom, lost her beautiful boy, all of 30 years old, at the hands of an illegal immigrant driving a truck. Shouldn't have been there, but he was. More to this.